First of all, a little bit about my background. I've been working on motorsport promotion for over 30 years now. It started when I was a student with the British Racing and Sports Car Club Fiat Racing Championship, which aimed to be a budget-level championship and ran successfully for 15 years. And in the last 20 years, I've managed Dunlop's sponsorship and technical partnerships in motorsport. And that includes events like the World Endurance Championship, Le Mans 24 Hours, and of course, closer to home, the British Touring Car Championship. When you're involved in so many different types of championships, you soon begin to realize what kind of projects are really going to be the credible ones. And today, we're going to talk about a project which I believe has the potential to be truly game-changing. Appropriately, the car is called the Revolution. In a moment, we're going to reveal the car, but first of all, I'm going to talk a little bit about the championship that the car will race in. So we're creating the Sports Prototype Cup. One of the things I've learned in promoting motorsport over the years, it's important to make sure that the competitor feels like a customer. It doesn't always happen in championships, and that's going to be in the basic ethos of the Sports Prototype Cup. We're going to build a championship that has extensive track time and also partners with premium partners, and also has a very innovative approach to promotion with a huge focus on social media. When you create a championship, it's important to have the best possible partners on board, and for the launch of the Sports Prototype Cup, we really are honoured to have the British Automobile Racing Club as our organising partner. In my time with Dunlop, we worked closely with the BARC on the British Touring Car Championship, and of course they have 100 years of experience of running motorsport events, including the World Endurance Championship event when it comes here to Silverstone each year. And it really is a huge benefit to the Sports Prototype Cup to have their expertise on board. We're also fortunate here on launch day to be able to announce a couple of other new partners to the Cup. It's my company, my motorsport management company, Pitbox 91, that will be running the promotion of the Cup. But we're also proud to have Sunoco on board. Sunoco have brought so much to UK motorsport over the years in giving opportunities and publicity to various championships. And they've already announced that the competitors in the UK Sports Prototype Cup will be part of their very prestigious road to racing at Daytona, which is a great prize for competitors. We've got Dunlop on board. Dunlop, if you're going to launch an endurance racing championship, where better to start than the most successful tyre company in endurance racing history, with 34 Le Mans wins and the last 8 LMP2 class wins at Le Mans being on Dunlop tyres. They're the right technical partner, but also, as you've seen with the British Touring Car Championship and other major championships, they're a very proactive marketing partner to the championship. And that's why we also have Reeves on board. Reeves are Dunlop's European PR and marketing agency, and they're involved in the promotion of those championships and will bring the same level of coverage and promotion that the other Dunlop championships have to the Sports Prototype Cup. We're also very pleased with the calendar, although I have to have the caveat that at this stage of the year it is very provisional, but the goal was to have the very best possible circuits. And we're going to be starting the season here on April the 27th with the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, and then running through some of the UK's favourite tracks to finish in Portugal for something that promises to be more than just a race. It will be the end of season party for everyone that's involved in the inaugural calendar, and that's part of the spirit of this Cup, about enjoying the racing both on track and off track. So to be at Portimao at the end of the year is fantastic, but that's also supporting the European Le Mans Series, and that's something that's very important for Dunlop, because Dunlop are the most successful partner in European Le Mans Series, so to have one of the championships that's on the ladder to Le Mans is extremely important. So the Cup itself is going to feature a race within the race. For any category of more than 8 cars, we're going to organise separate trophies. And one of the trophies that we have within it is the Dunlop Trophy for the Radical SR3. And for good reason. The Radical SR3 is one of the most successful sports prototypes available in the customer market. And in the 15 years since it was launched, there's literally hundreds of them in the UK. And when we launched the Cup, we had a lot of interest from teams that saw the promotional package that we were putting together the welcoming family atmosphere that we have in the series, and also the great support of Dunlop and the other partners. So with those teams, we'll be forming the BARC Dunlop Trophy for the Radical SR3. But we'll also have the trophy for the car that we're about to unveil today, the Revolution. The Revolution, you'll be able to see it in the garage in a few minutes' time. But first of all, I'd like to show you what it looks like, and even better, what it sounds like. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Revolution. The Revolution's an important cornerstone in the ambitions that we have for the Sports Prototype Cup. We've actually agreed a 5-year partnership between the Sports Prototype Cup and Revolution race cars, and that's an important message to people looking to invest in the car, that they have got a strong, stable and well-promoted championship here in the UK, as well as many other events internationally that they can compete in with that car. So I'd like you to welcome the founder and managing director of Revolution Race Cars, Phil Abbott.
Thanks.
So Phil, tell me a bit about the Revolution, particularly the ethos and the vision behind the car.
Well, the amazing opportunity that I was extremely grateful for is I had the opportunity to start with a completely clean sheet of paper in every way. So where to start then? And really, I like products. I like products that work. So I started with the customer experience. What is the customer experience? What does the customer want? Rather than starting off with some technology and trying to then sell it to a customer at the right price, we thought we'd just really examine in depth what the customer wants, what is the customer experience, and bring the technology to suit that rather than the other way around. And that's been a very, very interesting journey in materials, in specifications, and maybe like no other race car, you can start off with something that looks totally different, and then you give yourself the challenge of making it work aerodynamically. So really the ethos was to start off with the customer experience and bring the best it can be. A very good customer of ours, I think it was August 2016, said to me, the type of car I'd like to buy is a 2-seat carbon tub, 300 horsepower, and I don't want to pay more than 90 grand for it. And I agreed willingly, and then thought it's not possible. It's not possible to bring the quality that we want at 90 grand. But those thoughts started grinding away, and we started looking at what processes and materials we could use, and who we could use to do that. So the final result is what we see here.
And I think it looks fantastic. I was privileged to see the early drawings very early in the stage of the project. But for me, and someone else said this to me this morning, is that it looks like a sports prototype from the future. rather than one that just reflects the kind of styling cues of what LMP2 cars might have looked like 20 years ago. And I think that's one of the most visually impactful things about it. So tell us a little bit about the styling and the design team that were involved in this film.
Well, clearly we had to have a good design team. We found a really good, enthusiastic structures guy with materials, a carbon engineer in Pete Watts, but we really wanted to use this clean sheet of paper to do a very well styled car, a properly designed car by a high street stylist, and we were lucky enough to meet Simon Cox, who has been responsible for a number of Corvettes, the Cadillac CN, and was head of Infiniti design as well, and was very enthusiastic about race cars. And we were able to join with Simon and give him our idea of what we would like. And as you rightly say, James, if you're going to sell race cars for the next 5 years, you'd better start off with something that looks like it's 5 years in the future, and that's what we want to do.
So one of the key selling points about this car then, just to reflect on that, is that it's under £100,000, yes, or under €100,000,
yes,
which is about the same these days. But it's the only prototype car at that price point with a carbon fibre tub.
Yes, exactly. And the way we achieved that was we looked at all the new technology that was about and what was suitable to make a carbon tub. Virtually everything we see today with a carbon tub is in pre-preg, which is great. It's available to everyone. You can have whatever strength you like. That just becomes very expensive when you want to make a product. So we looked around for something that was maybe just as strong, more amenable to be worked with, and a little less in cost because of the volume it's used in. And we came up with a process called vacuum resin infusion, which means you put in dry fibres and you infuse it with the resin that you want. And in our case, we can use a resin that's very good with vibration, resists the vibration very well. And one of the first things we noticed when we drove the car is very, very smooth. And so, yeah, we have a carbon tub, which is tested to FIA standards, and it is one of the cheapest available.
So we talked about styling, and you had a well-known designer, Simon Cox, involved, but underneath that style, what about the substance? How about the aerodynamics of the car? What kind of G-forces are you seeing?
Yes, well, when you start off really with a stylist or an artist's impression, and then you have to make a real scale race car, that gives you some engineering uncertainties, but also in the aerodynamics. We used Total Sim at Brackley, which I believe are one of the best in the business and certainly the best in the UK for simulation work. And I think their roster is well over 50 sports cars have been designed in their aero facility. And I don't know whether this was one of the more challenging, but to them it was one of the more interesting ones, to take a car that was truly styled for the future and then make it work aerodynamically for the track. So we've managed to achieve incredible downforce figures, more than double the downforce of any competitive offering in the same sort of size. And that's been done by some clever work by the aerodynamicists, but also one of our prerequisites was to have a car that was extremely stable, that was very much customer focused and helped the customer achieve the lap times rather than giving the customer a knife edge car that takes a lot of setup and that kind of thing. So this is a very easy, benign car to drive, and with the downforce figures we're achieving, should be very, very quick.
So easy and benign to drive. Mm-hmm. What about maintaining it? I mean, the car looks sensational, but what about the maintenance of the car?
Well, to sell a lot of cars, I mean, the plan is to sell 50 to 100 a year for the next 5 years. We set off with that plan in mind. We need everybody to fall in love with it. We need the engineers to fall in love with it. We need the drivers to fall in love with it. So having had 30 years maintaining cars and curing people's problems, with our wonderful clean sheet of paper, we could start again, look at all the components on the car. The upright is the suspension upright is the same on every corner, front, rear, left, right. Many of the bearings are the same size, so it's engineered to be very easy to engineer.
I think for many of us that have taken racing cars to racetracks and found that you've got most of the spares in the van, but not the critical one you need, that simplification is an important selling point.
Yes.
So we've got the maintenance of the car. If we now look at the powertrain, again, you went for something that was relatively simple and proven there as well.
Yes, cars move on every year, and race cars need to as well. And from the maintenance point of view, for the powertrain, we chose a Ford V6, which will be running standard configuration in the UK. So it's 300 plus horsepower, 320 horsepower, but we expect service life of around 10,000 kilometres between engine servicing, and we're working with a gearbox manufacturer to try and achieve that same level. Whether we can get there, because that's a huge task for a gearbox, but we're looking to give the customer 10,000 miles, 10,000 kilometres, of racing between rebuilds.
And in the cockpit for the driver, you talk such a lot about comfort, which is a word you don't normally associate with race cars, but it's very important in endurance racing. And that focus on the ergonomics in the cockpit. Tell us.
Again, with our wonderful clean sheet of paper, we could make the monocoque chassis person-shaped, which generally, this is a stupid statement, race cars are designed by race car designers, and that means all straight lines, and the driver is a problem for a race car designer normally. We want there to be two passengers, a driver and a passenger in this car, so we gave it plenty of room, but we made it person-shaped, so people, when they're driving race cars, have elbows. The simplest thing in the world is to give them more space around that portion. So ergonomically, the car's very well designed for two people, so it can be used on track days as well as endurance racing. But also all the controls, virtually all of the controls on the car are on the steering wheel, a la Formula One. So only one or two key switches, on, off, start, stop, are on the dashboard. Everything else is contained in the steering wheel, and which again is a bespoke item.
And that's important. I mean, not all racing drivers come in the size of Lando Norris or Lewis Hamilton. Some kind of come in this sort of proportion as well. So the big cockpit, particularly when the track day market's an important one, and you have the instructor in the car with the driver, so that's obviously a major selling point for you. So the carbon fibre tub, it's roomy. What about the safety of the tub?
As I said, the tub and the whole car is tested to FIA-free formula, which involves a full range of crash testing, squeeze testing on all of the roll structures on the sides of the car.
So carbon fibre chassis and the crash box.
Yes, is the carbon fibre crash box as well.
Okay, so we talked about the championship that we're creating with the Sports Prototype Cup, but it's not the only place that you can race it. There's the V2V series across Europe, but also today you're announcing the fact there's going to be a Revolution Super Series. So tell us a little bit about those dates. It
was a great opportunity when we saw the dates of the Prototype Cup and also the V2V series, who are welcoming the car into the French series, and not many clashes at all, so we can actually build a Super Series which will give sports car drivers a range of events to do. The V2V series starting at Barcelona is 3-hour races. The UK Prototype Cup is one-hour races, and we can put all those dates together and give 9 rounds of various races. So that's the Super Series we'll be supporting as well. And as you can see, that takes you to unusual places like Navarra, but finishes off the year at Portimao and Estoril.
Well, thank you, Phil.
Okay.
It's now time to invite you all to 10:30 in 5 minutes' time. We're going to be doing an unveil of the car in the Garage 26, just down below, and it's your chance to see the Revolution for the first time. So thank you for your attention, and hope to see you later.